Hey guys, how you doing today? If you listen to this channel for any length of time, you're going to hear the phrase sociopathic death cult. I think that we've been taken over by a sociopathic death cult. I get pushed on all sides, from the left and from the right, for using this language. From the left, it's just so hyperbolic. It's too much. And from the right, it's how dare you? That's just divisive language. All this kind of stuff. I'm here to tell you that it's completely 100% accurate. That if you don't think you live in a society that's been taken over by a sociopathic death cult, you are kind of out of your mind, in my view. And it is getting to the point, and I've been saying this all along on the channel, it's going to get more overt, it's going to get more obvious, it's going to get more blatant, and no more is this beginning to manifest itself as a truth in our reality as from the Daily Wire, right? Where you have maniacs saying things like this.
The people who don't pay their fair share in this country are the poor. We need to raise taxes on the poor. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. The poor in this country pay zero. The lower middle class in this country pay net zero. So we have a group of people who pay no taxes, a group of people who pay no net taxes, a group of people who pay all the net taxes. And his argument is that it's category 3 who don't pay their fair share. Fair share means your percentage of taxes. We've determined that there are some people who shouldn't pay any percent of taxes. The only fair taxing system is one in which everyone pays.
Let's just tax the poor. Oh, that's only fair, right? It's only fair that we tax the poor. These people are sociopathic nonsense maniacs, right? Like, the idea that we should tax the poor to keep things fair, right? The idea that we should raise taxes on the poor. I don't even need to get into a Marxian economic explanation for why this is a completely terrible idea, right? I don't even need to delve deep into communist or even socialist or even liberal ideology, right? Like basic, even the hard right, like Austerian fascists, are not saying we should tax the poor. The people over at the Daily Beast are. And it's shameful that I'm now going to have to explain why putting a tax on the poor is a fundamentally bad idea, even from a raw economic standpoint, right? Incidentally, this guy is so convinced that this idea is good, he says it again.
Taxing the poor is moral, and we should do it.
So let's say someone's making $10,000 a year, right? Maybe they work at Walmart, right? Where the fortune of the Walmart family is subsidized completely by the state through food stamp programs because they don't pay a decent enough wage to actually let people live. So people have to actually get their wage subsidized from the government in the first place, which I stand here and go like, wait a minute, why aren't we just subsidizing everybody's wages and telling the Walmart family to get fucked, right? Anyway, let's say somebody's making $10,000 a year and you come along because you want things to be fair, because you don't think that labor actually counts for anything. It's just my capital is the only thing that matters. Who cares about these wage slaves that spend their entire lives accruing my capital for me? They should be taxed. So let's say we put a modest, 10% tax on them, right? They made $10,000 a year, so 10% tax on them. Well, what does that mean? That means you're taking $1,000 away from them and they only have $10,000 in the first place, right? Well, they don't actually have it. They have to spend that on rent and food and clothes, the bare necessities that we withhold from them for their labor, right? So, but now we're going to take $1,000 away from them for the privilege of working for you, who incidentally, you're a capitalist, you don't do work, you're nothing, right? You're a pathetic parasite who sucks on the side of the society, getting money for literally no reason whatsoever while you go off and golf? Who cares? If you're one of these people who ducks out of these videos around this time, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. My website is thecanadiancommie.com. I also do a podcast called The Socialist Agenda, which you can find at thesocialistagenda.com. If you feel like giving me any kind of money or direct support, my Patreon is down below. Thanks for coming, guys. So now, let's say that we wanted to tax another group that doesn't actually pay any taxes. Corporations, right? Corporations like Amazon, corporations like General Electric, right? These guys don't pay any taxes whatsoever, right? So let's say we put a 10% tax on them. This actually makes sense because they do no work. The workers are the ones that are doing the work. The company is the one that's taking all of the surplus value of their labor and hoarding it in offshore accounts for themselves. So let's say we wanted to put a 10% tax on these guys, right? So let's just, for the sake of mathematics, because we're not all mathematicians here, let's say one of these corporations is making $10 billion a year, right? Poor person makes 10,000, corporation makes 10 billion. And let's tax it 10%, same number, right? So they walk away from the table with $9 billion after having paid $1 billion in taxes. And taxing the poor is an extremely bad idea, just economically speaking, right? So that person now has less money. So you know what they do? They spend less money in the economy, right? And what are you doing with that money that you're taxing away? Well, you're giving it to rich people so that they can jam it in offshore accounts, right? That they don't actually spend money. This is a well-trodden trope at this point, right? Give money to poor people, they spend it in their local economy, creating a good economy. Give money to rich people, they take it and hoard it in offshore accounts and do nothing with it. Unless you're members of this sociopathic death cult who are denying the existence of the largest existential threat that we have in our lives, you know this. You're aware of this. You understand how there's like a moral consideration here? You understand how if you are genuinely standing up and saying that we should raise taxes on the poor, that this makes you a sociopathic, narcissistic death cultist? And what's even more egregious and disgusting is that this guy, Jeremy Boren, will stand up in front of you and talk about the Bible if it means he can oppress women.
The Bible says 6 days you will toil. It's a biblical both prescription and description, to borrow from Ben, that you would work 6 days of your life and rest on the seventh day. We can talk about the theological ramifications of that. That's a great conversation, but I'm not. I'm talking in a very practical sense. God commands and describes man as one who will work 6 out of 7
by the sweat
days.
of your brow.
By the sweat of your brow. And we say you shouldn't. I see all these women in America today who are miserably unhappy.
Really weird how these guys will hold a Bible to their chest, which says things in it like give money to the poor, right? It will say things like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. It says that rich people are bad and that they should give their money to the poor pretty regularly, but the only time they actually talk about it is when they want to oppress women, right? These people are sociopathic narcissists. They're wagging their dicks directly in your face, saying, we should tax poor people. So, John, this just makes them crass, maybe narcissistic. You're probably right about that, right? And maybe they are sociopaths, right? But death cult, John, that's a little bit too far. Oh yeah? Like, look how off the cuff they just admit that they're a death cult.
Like,
of course,
spending is, I think, sort of the Republican climate change, in that it's the issue we talk about, but nobody cares because it's not a reality. Now, the difference is that spending is an actual problem where climate change isn't. But
spending is a problem. Climate change is not. This is a death cult, right? They are denying the existence of the barbarians smashing down the gate to destroy us and our families, right? They are outright denying the existence of that so that they can elevate literal numbers that are printed by the government that don't exist in any meaningful capacity, right? When climate change begins to cause food shortages in our society, when climate change begins to render large sections of the land uninhabitable, when climate change begins to erode the coasts so that people can't even live there any longer, right? How's all that spending gonna look? How much money do you think you're gonna have to put on the table to deal with the mass famines that you're ignoring and creating, right? These people are narcissistic, sociopathic death cultists. They are being overt about it. They are being loud spoken. And more importantly than any of that, They're completely illiterate and clueless.
Nothing to do with blood, sweat, and tears.
Which is why people see him as an inspirational leader.
That's right.
The lie of modern liberalism is that what people actually want from their leaders is stuff, right? That if you give them a prosperous state, then they'll be super happy. And it's just a lie. We have the most prosperous America that we've ever had. We had it before the pandemic, and we'll have it again after the pandemic.
You'll notice I don't talk about overt fascist and racist Ben Shapiro in this video. It's worth addressing because other people have done a much better job of talking about him. Any panel that includes this guy without actually confronting his overt fascism, racism, and the fact that he's obviously a delusional megalomaniac is a panel that is obviously a death cult, right? Like the fact that Ben Shapiro is even in the room and being taken seriously as a speaker at all tells you that this is a death cult. So just to be completely clear, right? You live in a society where the wealthiest people in the communities do not understand basic grade 1 kindergarten level economics. They think that trickle-down economics works. They think that magic is real and that fairies are the reason why they have their money, right? They think they have their money because they're good people or whatever, while completely ignoring the poor they want to tax, right? The poor who are actually creating their wealth, the poor who are actually creating their fortunes, right? They don't care about any of that. And in fact, they want to tax those people, right? So what they care about is themselves completely. So in the end, you end up with a situation where you're living in a society where the wealthiest people are illiterate, narcissistic sociopaths who are doing everything they can to destroy the society around them, and simultaneously believing that they're the greatest. They're the reason why everybody has jobs. They're the reason why everything is going so well. I think at some point, you have to break this down and say, oh, this is a narcissistic, sociopathic death cult. It's right in front of our faces. They're being overt. They're not being quiet about it. And we should probably do something about it. So what can we do? Well, what we have to do as a populace now is organize, right? And I'm not talking about organizing underneath Democrat or Republican or liberal, conservative, NDP or any of that, who are just going to take your money, put it in their accounts, and then tell you to go slag off, right? You need to join non-politically affiliated groups, organize under those groups, and go at these parties as a voting bloc. I choose Socialist Action. Their link is down below. They're running candidates in unions. They're running candidates in union confederations. I'm going to be doing interviews with some of those people coming up, and with the explicit purpose of doing what has to be done to confront this sociopathic death cult, which is a mass general strike. We have no alternative at this point. These people are attempting to destroy us, right? They are actively attempting to destroy us while smoking cigars, laughing about it, telling us how great it would be if they raised our taxes. Oh, make sure Amazon doesn't pay any taxes though, because they're the job creators, right? We have to confront these people. We don't have an alternative. Under these circumstances, guys, you are doing really wonderfully. Our society has been taken over by a sociopathic death cult that is actively attempting to destroy us. As I say over and over and over on this channel, under these circumstances, you are doing really great. You're making good decisions for yourself. You're making good decisions for the people around you. You're making good decisions based on what's happening in your life. You're dealing with this collapsing society with grace, with elegance, and with dignity. You are a divine being standing on divine energy, and we could use some of it right now. Good luck. We're gonna need it.